What's your name? What's your name?
No one.
I don't believe that.
Who are you?
No one. A girl has no name.
We Are No One. A podcast has no name. A WWL Radio Game of Thrones podcast with your hosts Seth, Stina, and Styles.
And welcome into the final season of A Podcast Has No Name. Seth, Stina, Styles. Later on this season, we'll be joined by Teapot from B97 and Kat from Bayou 97 and Leon and maybe some other people, some other special guests.
We're back, baby.
It only has taken,
we're here.
2 years for this? Almost. Something like 500 days since the last episode of Game of Thrones. It's
Dwindling
crazy.
number of episodes left. We have 6 left, which is crazy.
I know.
They're all like feature-length films, though, right? Like, each one's going to be like an hour and a half long.
They tricked us a little bit with that.
What?
Yeah, it's 60 minutes for the first two, and then it's 80 or so after that.
Bait and switch.
That's still a lot.
I know. It's
That's
still a lot. Yeah.
That's still a lot.
They have
and I'm
so
down.
many loose ends to tie up, though.
Yes, double a lot, which we're going to get to. We got 2 podcasts coming here that we're going to release, today. If you're watching it, you know that we've already released them today, but we got the preview podcast, which is this one, and then we're going to have a predictions podcast. If you haven't checked out that one yet, that one's also released, and you can find that everywhere you found this one, and many more places. I will say, we're definitely going to continue this, right? I know this is way early, like for the new series and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. And I have to read the newest book that came out. That is, I think, which the new series is going to be based off again.
There's a new book?
Wait, Fire and Blood?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
The newest one, yeah. Oh, my God.
I'm so excited. Now, we have a couple of big announceds for everybody who watched the show before. We really have the Mother of Dragons here. Yes.
The Father of Dragons will be here soon, too.
So, we really have the Mother of Dragons, and we were all swagged out. I'm still Team Oberyn here. Oberyn's still my champion.
I'm wearing a woman's Stark shirt. Christina was so nice to grab me a shirt at the last minute at Hot Topic, and sun's out, guns out. So
Yeah, it's nice and tight.
It's feeling pretty sexy over here.
I like sun's out, guns out.
When it's like torrential downpour outside.
Yes,
for sure.
yeah. We're recording this on the day where there was just massive storms everywhere here in New Orleans, and we're all at. So welcome into our podcast. We've got multiple new social medias for the show. On Twitter, it's at a podcast has. Couldn't fit the no name because character limit. So it's at a podcast has on Twitter. And Instagram is at a podcast has no name, GOT, because some pretender stole the OG Instagram handle. So
we're the OG.
Real deal right here.
Yeah, we are the real deal. Let's be honest here. So welcome into our show. You can find me at Seth Dunlap on Twitter. What about you guys?
Don't follow me on Twitter.
No, Insta. Maybe not Twitter.
Follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
I think it's Neem Mobile. NEEMOBILE.
How do you not know you're on Twitter?
Oh, my.
Your Insta.
I don't know. I have so many different handles and nicknames.
Is that common?
I thought it was something to do with a turtle, to be honest.
Oh, Name a Turtle. That's right.
it.
With 2
Okay.
E's. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
you're
really
welcome.
don't know.
I want to point out that Christina knew your Insta handle and you didn't.
Whatever.
My Insta is Stina_Molinario.
All right, so follow us there. Every Tuesday morning we'll be releasing these episodes. All right, let's get into it here. Series in Review podcast. And we're not just going to make this bland. We're going to go over some of our biggest moments and what we think they mean to the series and to the show. Let's get a little scene set here, though, first, where everybody is. And the big scene that ended the show for me was Littlefinger's death, and really a power play by Sansa up in Winterfell. So we have Sansa and Arya and Bran there. You have Jon and Dany making love in a boat
On their
somewhere.
way to White Harbor, I believe.
Rock the boat.
Jaime just left. What else? Jaime just left Cersei.
Cersei's in King's Landing. You got Euron coming over.
Pretending to be pregnant.
Do you think she's food baby?
I mean, we'll see. Probably food baby.
Food baby?
Wine baby.
We don't know exactly where Euron is. We think that he was recruiting the Golden Company. Golden Company's coming over from Essos. Dorne is done. Bravos is probably done with the Faceless Men. So really concentration, really. I think we got Winterfell and King's Landing. And, of course, whatever the hell is happening north of the wall.
Yeah, I mean, there is no wall, so what's happening north?
North of where the wall once stood.
And are we going to go back to Essos, do you think? Maybe this is for the predictions podcast.
Maybe
but-
Melisandre coming, but other than that, I don't think.
Well, she said she's coming back.
Right.
Yeah, but she's coming back. I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna follow
Right,
her over
no.
there. She's got the. This is for predictions, but she's definitely grabbing all the red priests.
Oh, it has to
and
be.
priestesses.
There's going to
Right.
be
Yeah.
an army of red priests coming back.
It's gonna be sick.
All right. Well, let's go back through some of the series' biggest moments, and maybe we can kind of do this in chronological order. And I don't want to go through all the big moments, but the ones that we think might impact season 9. And I was talking to y'all before we started the cast about the big one for me. I went back and watched it like 4 times. Was the tower scene when Daenerys is in the tower in Karth?
Yes.
She's locked up, and she has all of those visions. One of the visions is that the king's the Iron Throne is blown up.
Yeah, it's like it
The
looks
Red
like it's
Keep is
covered in
blown
snow.
up.
Yeah, ashy.
Right.
I thought it was snow because I haven't seen that. I kind of skipped the season 2 on my rewatches because it's not my favorite. But it's like, yeah, definitely Cersei is nowhere to be seen. Sorry, pal.
That's what I think. I think it's ashes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ashes. Because who was it? Like, someone said, they would be king of the ashes if they could still be.
Right.
So, yeah, Daenerys has in the vision of the end, like the something of the undying.
Yeah,
The Tower
House
of
of
the-
the Undying.
Tower-
Yeah, the House
House
of the Undying with the warlocks, and then they try to kill her and her dragon, and then she's saved by her dragons. That was a big scene. Anything with because we have so many premonitions and what's the word I'm looking for?
Looking into the flames.
Yes, looking into the flames. The big ones that are still to be remain are like Maggie the Frog for Cersei, and then Melisandre. Stuff with Arya still. And then, of course, the prince that was promised, and
The
Azor
Valancourt.
Ahai and the Valancourt.
Who is not just, it's not a prince. Like, we got corrected by Missandei in the last season.
Well, that's for the prince or princess.
Gender's
that was
fluid
promised.
nowadays,
Yeah.
anyway.
It is true.
So,
Non-binary
Exactly.
Valancourt.
very for a show that's supposed to be like medieval, it's very ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
Very progressive for being medieval. None of this would have happened, of course, without Ned getting his head chopped off in season 1, which for me is still one of the most memorable moments in TV history for me. I just remember I hadn't really ever seen anything like that in a television show, maybe even in a movie, where the protagonist, your protagonist, we knew this was going to be a multi-season series, gets whacked. Not even at the end of season 1, just like in the second to last episode of season 1, and sets up everything that happens now.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the most pivotal point of the whole series because it sets everything in motion. But moreover, I think it set the precedent for the whole show in that anything can happen and anyone can die at any given time.
Oh, absolutely. Even whenever you think that he has everything let up, he has all of his ducks in a row, he's going to get it taken care of. No, Cersei rips the paper. Like, you're not going to get in between my children and the love of my life. And, I just think that Game of Thrones will throw you on some twists sometimes.
Wasn't she the master paper ripper at some time? And didn't Tyrion comment on that at some time?
She did? Oh, man. Oh, God. That's funny.
I can do this here. Wait. I got a piece of paper. Let me see. Let me see if I can do this Cersei style. But once you drag it out.
They used to throw it on the ground after, like it means nothing.
Could you do that for every paper of the recap? Just like a Cersei, good old-fashioned Cersei rip for us.
Yes, good old-fashioned Cersei rip. Of course, Dany giving birth to her dragons, too. She's come out of the flames a couple of times, but I thought the more memorable scene, that was obviously pretty memorable, I guess, because it kicked the first time we saw the dragons, but also when she burned everybody in Vice Dorthrak.
Oh,
Remember
I
that,
just
all the-
watched
all the
that
calls?
episode too.
Oh my
I
God.
cried. I cry in every Daenerys scene though.
Do you?
Yeah, I get very emotional.
She's my favorite as well. Yeah, when she hatched those dragons, this show could have, oh, the White Walker.
No.
This show could have taken place in like 12th century on Earth until those dragons were hatched, and then it kind of set the whole precedent for the rest of the show being more about magic.
Right,
That
mystical, yeah.
aside from the White Walkers and everything happening north of the Wall.
But that was the first time we'd really seen any kind of quote-unquote magic in the show, right? Or am I have that
Right,
wrong?
magic was kind of dead and to the point. Then dragons came back, changed everything.
And I think George Martin says, hey, he wants to make limited use of magic or anything as becomes possible. I saw a podcast with him on, or maybe it was on YouTube, where it was an audience panel. He was asking, why don't you have more magic? and paraphrasing him, he said, "You can't have more magic, or then all of you would be asking me, George Martin, well, why don't they just cast spell X and save everybody?" Which is a problem they had in Lord of the Rings for so long, because Gandalf seems like he could just snap his fingers and do whatever, and never did. So I like the low magic. I really like the low magic.
Too.
Really like the low. Wait, here we go. Okay, no more of that. No more of that.
Are you sure? That's my new favorite part of the podcast.
Should we just have part of that? The other magic scene in season 2, which I thought was the creepiest magic of the whole series, was Melisandre giving birth to a shadow baby.
Kind of hot though.
First time we really saw Melisandre or the shadow baby, or both?
No comment. Neither.
Neither. You're backtracking.
Oh, absolutely.
Kills Stannis, but kills Renly. It was kind of a secondary character, I guess, at that point.
Well, he was one of the 5 kings for the War of the 5 Kings. I mean, that's we talk about what how Ned Stark's beheading influences the show. It starts like the first real war since Robert's Rebellion.
Right, not understanding the show that well. You're actually rooting for Renly because he's the more charismatic one. And so whenever he dies, like, oh my God, he would have been perfect. But no, Stannis is the one true king. Let's get real.
Yep.
Until he burned his daughter.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Fair.
Because we were all on the podcast before that happened, we were saying, man, we're kind of Team Stannis.
Yeah.
And then the one move.
I mean, he's an old grump, but he really was the true heir to the throne.
True.
He was
Everyone
the
gets
true heir to the
technical.
throne. Or was Gendry the true?
I think he still is.
Oh my God. Well, Gendry's one of my favorite characters, and I would like. I mean, he's definitely not going to be sitting on the Iron Throne at the end of the show.
Maybe.
Oh.
Could have some predictions.
Oh
for that.
man. Actually, maybe Gendry is the true heir to the throne.
He is.
I mean, he
Wow.
definitely is.
Yeah.
Even though he's a bastard, he's definitely. Well, I guess would it be Daenerys and then? Well, it depends on your perspective.
No, I think.
If you're a Targaryen and you go back before the war, Robert's Rebellion, it would be Daenerys. But after that, it is Gendry,
Yeah,
right?
if you get overthrown, you get overthrown.
You get overthrown. It's
Right.
the Game of Thrones.
I have seen that many times in the board game right here that we're going to play on Sunday. Yes, I think I was overthrown last time by your husband at the very end.
He can
got
be
us
good.
all.
So it
He was
goes.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was good. Melisandre's magic. Are you wanting to see more if
Yes.
she comes
I'm a
back?
fan. I love
me
it.
too.
R'hllor for life.
Me too.
Would you consider the direwolves magic?
Old
they just wild
gods-ish.
animals?
I mean, you can warg into them. I think so.
Are they just a fantastic beast of this world that exists, but they're not magic?
They're magic in that the Stark kids can warg into
Yeah, you have
them,
a
but I
special
think that's
connection.
a wargame. Yeah, they do have a special connection.
Right.
Is this a book versus show jump off? Because I'm this to get if you're first time listener to the show, I am just a show watcher. They both have read the books.
Right.
Yeah, this is obviously the reaction that every show watcher gets is show watcher.
We don't look
You
down
know
on
anything.
you that much. Not that much.
Is that a difference between the books and the TV show though? In the books that all the Stark kids can warg?
All but Sansa. But I mean, in the show, you can already tell that Nymeria and Arya have a special connection. Jon and Ghost.
Rob and Greywind.
Right. They
And,
can kind of do what the Stark kids think it. The
Rickon
direwolves
and
do it.
Shaggy Dog. Actually, Rickon warged Shaggy Dog and Summer at one point while he was still alive in the books.
Poor Shaggy Dog. Poor Summer. Poor all of them except for Nymeria and Ghost, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Season 2 is a very underrated season in my mind in the show. You had the Shadow Baby, we just talked about. You had the Battle of Blackwater, which was huge. You saw Tyrion's kind of turnabout as a character, I thought. He became much more sympathetic after that.
He might be my favorite character. I think he won that season in that he went from being like a captive, and then he helped in the that battle against Robb Stark's people, and then when Jaime got caught in the Whispering Wood. But yeah, season 2, Tyrion being the hand of the king, smacking Joffrey around a little bit was just so much fun.
Anytime Joffrey got smacked, it was just great. There was nothing better in the show.
What a good villain.
Also in season 2, Theon became a villain before his half turnaround here. He pretended to kill the Stark kids. He beheaded Sir Roderick. He took over Winterfell, and really was one of the reasons why the Stark family was disintegrated.
Yeah, they were pegged down a few notches, that one.
Absolutely. But Yeah, I guess only Theon could have done it, but like Robb should. There always must be a Stark in Winterfell, and I mean Bran was there, but Robb put too much faith into Theon Greyjoy. Catelyn Stark tried to tell him that was a bad idea, and Robb Stark did. He was great on the battlefield, but not as far as. And then he took it right after his dad, not a politician.
No.
So
It's not all the Starks.
no,
They're not bright, I would say.
Sansa's getting it right now.
Okay, well, I guess maybe it's the Stark men.
Actually, no, you're right, Sansa, because she needed Littlefinger's tutelage, but that dumbass got her father's head chopped off.
Was it her?
It was her because she made him say that Joffrey's the true. I mean, she definitely fucked shit up. Am I gonna say that?
Yeah, we're internet.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
We try to keep it clean. but it's internet, so.
Sansa definitely messed it up. Except, I think Ned was a goner either way, but just kind of dug herself deeper into a hole. Littlefinger was definitely her mentor, I feel like.
Definitely. Littlefinger and Cersei just made a beautiful Sansa baby.
That's true. I've never liked Theon, at all. Even during his redemption arc, I'm kind of not Team Theon. He's just an annoying character to me. And
you
I
start
understand.
feeling bad for him though a little bit.
Well, you do, but he needed to die 3 seasons ago.
I completely agree. They dragged out his torturing by Ramsay Bolton way too long. In the books, not to be that guy because it's a show podcast, he's missing from books 3 and 4. And then you see him in book 5, and he's tortured for a chapter or two, and not 3 or 4 years of our lives. So maybe, I don't know. I'm not that big of a fan of Theon either. And again, this is for predictions, but we'll see if he can win you back, Seth.
Are you Team Theon?
I mean, I'm Team Greyjoy,
Christina?
so how could I not be?
I'm Yara. I'm Team Yara.
I love the Ironborn so much.
I like Euron.
I know, I like Euron and Silence. They're probably my favorite. But...
Is Euron more redeemable in the books?
No,
he's worse.
he's so evil. I love it.
Oh, he's even more evil.
Yeah.
Ooh, I might like him then. I'm Team Cersei, so I'm kind of like this. This is what there we go with Theon. With Theon, and of course, let's jump to season 3, and it was all war building up to the one moment that everybody remembers about the show, and that's the Red Wedding.
The Red Wedding.
Red Wedding. One of the.
Is it too soon? Even though we're already in the last season?
Rob had it coming.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, we're recording. We're recording right now. A podcast. Yep. That was cleaning crew in here trying to kick us
Thoughts on the Red Wedding?
Yes. That would have been perfect. Thoughts on the Red Wedding? Should have been huh? But it's one of the biggest moments in television history. I mean, let's just be honest here. It's a moment that it became, I think, made the show what it is. It was a viral moment that people who weren't watching, they felt like they needed to start watching the show. It is a jumping point from kind of the War of the Five Kings into the political intrigue and the battle against the forces beyond the wall in the north. And I don't know if there's too many moments in television history like that.
No, not at all. I mean, because whenever you cut off Ned Stark's head, that was the main character, but then you're going to just clean swoop all of the main characters, and then to top it off with Catelyn's wail. It gets you to your core.
Pretty brutal.
Oh, no.
I'm going to show our video viewers. This is Catelyn's wail right here. Oh,
That's so sad.
I heard that in my dreams for a long time, my nightmares.
Yeah,
a long time.
And then cut to credits.
The Black. It was one of the first episodes that never had any music, I think, in the credits. They just went black.
Beautiful.
Reigns of Castamere.
I was looking forward to it, but having read that in the books, knowing it was coming, I just wanted to, I wanted to tell the people that were just watched the show about it so bad, but, this would be the worst spoiler ever. I remember reading it and just being like, holy crap. In the book, it's smack in the middle. George R.R. Martin's a real monster.
Oh, yeah. You see, that made me want to read the books. So I watched the show, and then after that happened, I was like, okay, no, I need more.
Wow.
I need so much more.
Yep.
It's incredible. And then we kind of got a panacea right after that when Misha, right, Daenerys kind of frees all the slaves, and she finally becomes a bit of a power player. She had been feebly trying to work her way through Essos and follow politics there and trying to get entangled in that intrigue. But I think it finally happened when she freed everybody in Slaver's Bay and killed the Masters. She killed the
did.
Masters.
Yes,
Breaker
she
of
did.
chains.
I need to go back. I forgot the one scene again. I know we mentioned it before, but in season 2, when in Karth, I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't go back and play that scene again in like the preview, when they do the little previews at the beginning of the series.
Those.
Because they showed her beyond the wall. They showed, again, her in a devastated Red Keep. That the roof had been blown off. It didn't look like, in my mind, that like the wildfire came up because the floor was still there and the throne was actually still there. It more looked like Daenerys might have blown the roof off with Drogon and some of her dragons, which wouldn't be good. And then, of course, we'll go to season 4, and maybe my favorite moment of the whole series. Oh my gosh! I think I stood up and cheered and gave fist pumps, and I was so excited. Was this right here, Joffrey?
That's
so
purple
graphic.
wedding.
It is a little graphic. I felt bad for the actor because he got a lot of hate.
And he actually is one of I was reading. He's actually one of like the nicest people you'll ever meet. And It's funny that he
Not in this show.
Not in this show. He definitely had it coming.
He did have it coming. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Lena, that bad girl. She just let Tyrion, the one that we love, get all the blame for it.
Well, she's old as shit. There's that's how she stayed in power for so long. She's one of my top 3 or 5 favorite characters in the show.
That and Tywin.
You like Tywin?
I love Tywin Lannister.
Oh, my, he's just a bully. He's like a little...
no, he gets things done.
Well, he had his comeuppance, and we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah.
He did have his come up as he was trying to
take a shit.
Come down it. Yeah. Yes, I'm not. Really quickly on Olenna, because I might forget this later in this podcast. I will say on my second and third watch throughs of her later in the show, I was a lot less sympathetic to her. Especially her post Septa Baelor being blown up. I thought she turned into somebody who was really selfish, that didn't care about people and anything but revenge, and she was willing to sacrifice people and armies and cities and keeps and everything just to get revenge on Cersei. And I watched it again and I'm going, yeah, well, Jaime kind of has a point here when he goes and kills her and says, and everybody's calling her just, mad, crazy old woman. At that point, she kind of was.
You ever seen an old lady in a department store yelling at everybody, or they usually will get away with shit?
Is this Olenna Tyrell in Sears or whatever?
I'm gonna, but let me speak to your manager. That's
It said I got a 20% discount. You only gave me 15.
And guess what? She's gonna get that discount. The Lady of Thorns, the Queen of Thorns. In that similar vein, I was just rewatching season 6 as well before Cersei blows up. Maybe it was season 5? Anyway, Cersei's actually making a conscious effort to help get rid of the High Sparrows, and she is imploring the Queen of Thorns to help. She's like, how are you going to leave Loras? Because Marjorie's like, grandmother, get out of here. And she gives her the little rose on a piece of paper, and Olenna finally is like, all right, I'm out of here. And Cersei's like, how are you gonna leave here with your grandkids in dire straits? And she was like, didn't give a shit. And I was like, damn, Cersei's actually making a conscious effort here to have an alliance and help out the Tyrells a little bit. And of course she's helping herself, but I also looked at the Queen of Thorns and was like, come on, girl.
Yeah, pull it together, girl. And I'm Team Cersei, and maybe we're jumping ahead here a little bit, but that's fine. She should have helped Cersei then. I understand that you're mortal enemies, but you had a bigger enemy at that point that was wrecking both of your lineages and houses.
Definitely a power play. She was all about keeping her power, and she thought that was to knock Cersei down and to keep her down. So she wasn't going to help her.
Marjorie would have been alive if she would have accepted Cersei's request, right?
A lot of things would have happened.
But it would have robbed us of my second favorite moment on the show, which we'll get to that in just a little bit. Back to season 4. Tyrion's trial. That was cool. I thought it could have been a little better done, but it was such a sad moment for Tyrion when his former lover, Shay, testifies against him in the trial, and then she's found sleeping with his dad. You talk about devastating.
Christina's favorite character,
Tywin,
my gosh. Sleeping with that was, second trial for Tyrion, and I don't know, it was a great monologue. He's like, I'm guilty of this, this, and this. I thought that was great.
It was this. It was this scene, I think, right? This was
Definitely going for that Emmy in that speech.
This is what got him the Emmy, I think. This was his first Emmy, I believe.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that one. That's not worth a rip, by the
Now,
way.
you see, I don't think the show did any wrong until last season. So up until season 7, I think the show was just perfect.
My favorite part of the whole him being on trial was the trial by combat and the man on your T-shirt's head getting popped in.
Oh, that was tragic.
All right,
He's everyone's favorite. Let's get real.
Let's get to this. So yes, I'm wearing the Oberyn is Oberyn is my champion shirt, and he was very quickly. And I'm not just saying this in retrospect. I can't remember if I was watching the season with you guys or not, but he was becoming my favorite character.
Absolutely.
Oh, I remember.
He was becoming my favorite character, and to have this very Game of Thrones, to have him wiped out just like that because gets his head popped, which to this moment is the most cringeworthy part of this entire show for me. I literally could not sleep that night. Not really from the visual, it was from the sound, of the crunching watermelon brains and bones. It was
I'm weird in that I like to torture myself, and I watched that on repeat time after time after time because it was so.
The real Michael comes out.
It was something. It was disgusting. But like you said, I couldn't stop thinking about it. You know how when you can't get a song out of your head, you listen to it. I couldn't get it out of my head, so I just kept watching.
Oh, you're a masochist.
Oh, stop! I'm gonna get a shirt with his head popped in to match.
Oh no! All right, I'll wear it. We'll have dueling shirts here. You got to be with me here, Stina, right?
Oh, absolutely. My heart was broken. I loved him. I grieved for him.
Yeah, don't get drunk before a duel, bro.
Now, let's talk about the moment that is set up. Kind of everything since then, and that was was it the penultimate or it was the final episode of season 4? I can't remember which one. Where Jaime frees, with the help of Varys, frees Tyrion against the wishes of his entire family and really everybody in King's Landing at that point, other than Tyrion and Varys. And then Tyrion, he was going to leave, finds Shay, kills Shay, then goes and kills his dad on the pooper.
Yep.
And everything after that's. Now, it's all in motion because of that one moment. It's one of the most critical points of the series, I think.
Well, Cersei resents Tyrion for, one, she thinks that Tyrion killed Joffrey, but moreover, that he killed her dad. But what she should consider is that she wouldn't be in power if it weren't for, her father not being there kind of helped her elevate to a major, major player. A crazy one, but to a player.
You must be sad because you were team Tywin.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, honestly, Lannisters, yes, she got bumped up to being a higher player, but they kind of lost the respect that they had as a house because everyone knew who Tywin Lannister was. Whenever he stepped in the room, you knew it was serious. So not having him, they just had the Kingslayer, the Imp, and then this drunk old whore. I know you love Cersei, but let's be real.
I do, but I love some drunk old whores. Just be honest here.
Here I am.
To your point. Oh, man. Hi. To your point, I just rewatched a montage. On YouTube, they have a montage of every single small council meeting in the entire show. It's 50 minutes. It's great. Ooh. I was watching that last night. But the first time Tywin walks into the small council meeting after the battle, he comes in, everybody's just so, scared to even breathe.
Oh, yeah. You pull up your tie, that's how you know.
That was the infamous Tyrion dragging the chair scene. You remember that one? Around the small council very slowly, and it's making that, fingernails on a chalkboard sound. It was awesome. I will say, to your point here, I was never a Tywin fan the first couple of watch-throughs. Going back and watching it now for the 4th or 5th time, he's growing on me a little bit.
He's all about the legacy. He wants to keep the Lannister name in existence forever, and I think he's done a really great job of that. I mean, his kids might have messed it up, but he will be remembered.
My favorite Tywin moments were with Arya.
That was adorable.
When they were in Harrenhal, and he could tell that she was he could tell that she was someone. Ironically, eventually becomes no one, but he could recognize that she wasn't as dumb and poor as she looked, or at least.
Well, she was the daughter he probably always wanted.
Definitely. If you're going to pretend to play poor, it's Milord.
It's so good. Tywin's a terrible father. Great strategist, hand of the king, the military leader, everything like that. But
Didn't tell his kids not to fuck each other.
that seems like parentage 101, but I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just we're the privileged 2019ers in a real world. If we lived in Westeros in George R. R. Martin's fantasy, maybe it would just be different. A lot of people forget about the battle at Castle Black, which was also in season 4. There's so many. That is one of my favorite battle scenes. Poor Egrets, but outside of that,
right after Oberyn. So I mean, my heart was already broken. It was still very sad. It's probably the best love couple I think on the show was Jon and Ygritte.
It has to be because there's chemistry and they're married.
Right.
In real life.
Yeah, Rose Leslie.
Yeah, I would say that's the best romance.
Yeah.
No, you're not back on the Jamie Brienne.
The potential romances, that's different.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know who would top in that instance between Brienne and Jaime.
Oh boy.
Actually, I ship so hard for Arya and Gendry.
Really? I know a lot of people like that. I don't know if I'm in the same boat. I just don't. Arya is such a.
She's not a lady. She's like a, I don't see her sitting at home knitting. That's Sansa's job. But, the Baratheon Stark kind of procreation that we were robbed of with Lyanna's death.
Yeah, true that. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's because I've grown. I remember Arya when she was like 8 at the beginning of the show or whatever it was, or 10 in real life. So it's hard for me to think of her in like a sexual way like that. Is that weird? Maybe I'm daddy Seth over here being like, no,
Well, whenever
Arya,
she was
stay
going
away.
to the wall with him, she was kind of giving him the eye, batting her eyelashes.
It's true.
Yeah, she likes him.
She likes
Gendry.
him.
Yeah, true that.
If they don't get together, she's a goner, but we'll get to that.
Ooh. Okay, season 5. Great. I mean, they're all great seasons. You have Daenerys and Meereen. You also have, it's got to be top 5 scenes for me and episodes for me is Hardhome. Up north, when finally we see the Night King in all of his glory resurrect hands to the side, resurrecting everybody.
Epic meme. Or
John,
come at me,
stare
bro.
down. So good. So good. That whole episode was so well done. And very Game of Thrones, when they introduced all these characters, including a really badass like female warrior for the Wildlings. I forget, it starts with a K. I forget her name. And then she just gets killed. Like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Done. Killed. Hard home thoughts. Hard home thoughts.
Definitely from like a visual standpoint, pretty badass. Like it puts The Walking Dead to shame for sure. And it kind of sets up the threat of Beyond the Wall, I think. So it's like a legitimate threat and kind of sets the stage for the closing of the series. Like the real true enemy, as John's been saying for a long time, is, fighting amongst each other is not what we're going for. We need to look north.
That is one thing that Game of Thrones does beautifully is battle scenes. Blackwater, Hardhome, Battle of the Bastards, they were all awesome. And I still live with my mom when Hardhome came out. And I remember after I watched Game of Thrones, she was like, what were you watching? Are you okay? Because I thought Jon was going to die about 5 times in that episode. It was pulling at my heartstrings a little bit. So, I mean, it just goes to show that Game of Thrones is the best show out there.
Ooh, I just remembered the sword clang between him and the White. When we finally found out you can actually stop the White Walkers with that Valyrian steel. Yep. Clang.
Yeah, it was tough.
Clang. Also, one of the biggest villains in my show. Forget Cersei's not a villain. The Faith Militant was the villain in the show, and the High Sparrow, and they get introduced in season 5. What a wretched group of theocrats that they are.
I disagree.
Wow, this is a hot take.
Really?
I feel like this is a hot take. Are you defending the Faith Militant?
I'm defending him in that he fully believes what he's, he believes what he's doing is the right thing, and he's not trying to elevate himself to a position of power. He is, he fully believes in the faith of the Seven, and you can't. He's incorruptible because he just believes what he. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he's misguided, but he is not antagonist. I think he was just an opponent for Cersei, who you love.
Yeah, well, I'm the weird one with Cersei, but I saw Stina. It seems like you're with me here. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, he's so power hungry. He has a god complex like no one else. He can do no wrong. He's like, well, I used to sin, but not today. Oh man, that guy. He needs to
So
get off his high
righteous.
horse.
I don't know. I think he's a nice guy.
Pious prick.
Wait a second. For as much as I've defended Cersei, there's not once that I've said Cersei's a nice woman. I want to go to dinner with Cersei.
What was the High Sparrow's actual name? Steve?
I don't think they ever gave it. He just said, I'm just the High Sparrow.
Yeah.
Because he's above having like a name that's so egotistical. He's just the High Sparrow.
Stannis' farewell was also in season 5. He made so many missteps there. Melisandre's a huge villain in this season, and I don't think you can ever be redeemed for burning his daughter alive at the stake. And the army, half of his army left because of that. They saw him burning his daughter and like, I don't want to follow this crazy person anymore. And for Stannis, the true king, as we all said, we were Team Stannis up until that point, hoping he was going to change his mind and be redeemable. Was all she wrote.
I was heartbroken when that happened, but after the fact, I kind of started liking R'hllor even more a little bit. I know it's really messed up for me to say, but I was like, oh, okay, like, R'hllor's definitely got some powers.
That's true. Well, in this show, let's be honest, unless you're rooting for Jon, even Dany's done some not great things. So unless you're rooting for Jon, there's no purely good person in this show, I don't think.
Not
Maybe
even
Jon.
Jon?
Maybe Jon.
Well, he did run away from Ygritte, which is, I thought, a pretty shitty way to break up with someone.
But he ran into her arms in real life.
Oh, that's
From
true,
Jamie's
too.
point of view, he does everything for a good reason. To be honest, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, well, his principles might not be aligned with my principles, but I do think that he has his own set of principles that he follows.
Yeah, throw a kid or two out the window, it's fine. I love Jamie.
Yeah, I know. Sansa's feeding a guy to dogs. Like, that's fine.
It's
she
fine.
She believed it was the right thing to do, so she's impervious to criticism.
Just realizing if we ever like randomly run for political office later in our lives, we're just gonna have these snippets of us doing stuff like, yeah, throwing a child out of a window is fine, and there's no context. This will be like a political ad, Stina for Westeros president 2022. Throw children out the windows.
I'll get all the votes. Let's go.
Hey, these days, you never know.
You would get
Jesus.
all the votes. Was Shireen's scene, was that the saddest moment in the show for you? I think it might have been for me.
The red wedding would still
Yeah,
top
red
it
wedding.
for me. But it was definitely very heartbreaking.
Like, she was so innocent. She spent her entire life locked up because her mom hated her, and her dad was just consumed with being a power-hungry throne king wannabe. Oh, sad.
Hot take. I don't think we've seen the saddest moment yet, though.
Oh, I agree with you there.
We'll see.
We're going to go through some stuff here this final season. Of course, we have the big moment for Jon when he is betrayed by Ollie, maybe the most hated person in Game of Thrones.
That's
He's the
not
king.
fair. That's not fair. We've seen Ollie's backstory. His parents were like, he watched his the wildlings eat his parents alive. Like, I kind of understand why he can't get past Jon being like, no, they're cool. I'm like, no, but, I watched them kill my parents. No, just trust me. They're good. So I don't think Ollie's the worst person on the show. Plus, he's 10, 11 years old?
I didn't say he was the worst in my mind. The fan base, I think, really doesn't like the kid.
Well, the fan base needs to get a grip.
Yes. But we don't get a grip. Keep watching the show. We love it.
Man, I'm starting to stockpile some unlikable characters on I got the High Sparrow on my team. I got Ollie. Pretty good.
And I thought I was the one who had the, the crazy, I like the evil people, dark side kind of guy.
Game of Thrones brings it out in you.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Season 6. Second favorite season, maybe. There's so much that goes on here.
Top favorite season for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
At the beginning, before Jon gets resurrected, spoiler alert, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast if you haven't watched it yet, but Melisandre reveals that she is 500 years old, takes off the jewel. She shows her true self, which is, not nearly as attractive as the woman that plays her in the show. Cool scene. Great scene.
Yeah, and I don't know why they did. I mean, Game of Thrones loves to shock their audience, and I think there's a lot of body shaming for her. I'm sure that's I'm sure some people look like that naked though, which they're probably like, ew, that fucking old person naked. Sure, some people's feelings were hurt when they also looked like that, and they're like, she doesn't look that bad.
For being 500 years
She
old?
looks pretty damn good.
She looks hot for 500. Let's get real.
She looks better than Lady, like the Queen of Thorns does now, and she's got like 400 years on her.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there actually people body shaming? And that was a real.
On Twitter, but
That's crazy because
That's
that was
not
actually
real.
a real like actress who is I think 80 years old that they put in there. They put some prosthetics on her face and stuff, but that was her in the full nude there.
She had a cute little butt. I remember thinking.
I'll be honest. If I can look that good when I'm 80,
Dude.
I'm down for it.
Sign me up.
I know.
And if I'm 500. Doran gets murdered by a very vengeful Ilaria Sands, who at this point to me became just kind of a nuisance to the show. And I was...
The whole Dorn thing they botched, not to get back on the book, but like Dorn is kind of cool in the books, but they butchered the whole thing in the show. And I'm glad they kind of clean sweeped that whole family. I don't know if that's coming up, but outside of your boy Oberyn, I think the whole Dorn subplot was meh.
That's one thing HBO does really well. They listen to the fans and they kind of heard the outrage everyone had with Dorns. They were like, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll kill all of them off for you. No problem."
Perfect.
All right, well, it's worth Ilaria is worth that.
Well, that's what Cersei did to her in the show as well.
Kiss your daughter goodbye.
Yeah.
We'll get to some predictions. I just wonder, because she's supposed to still be alive.
If you don't see them
prison.
outside of Stannis, if you don't see them die on screen, then there's a good chance they're still
Right,
alive.
because Brienne of Tarth, she kind of can't lie.
She confirmed.
Yeah.
She confirmed. I don't know why they didn't show that on
Yeah,
the
it
show. I
doesn't
would have
make any
liked to
sense.
see it.
He might be alive.
Oh no.
Daenerys, we were just talking about this scene before when we got on the cast here. My coolest, gotta be, maybe my favorite Daenerys scene was her power play in Vice Dothrak with all the calls she's brought into the temple, and they're ready to either basically rape her or sell her to the slavers in Slavers Bay, and she instead burns them all alive in a great power play. One of the biggest power plays in the entire
talking about
show.
when she's in Vase Dothrak?
Yep.
Oh, she was just gonna have to live out her days in like that basically like
Ladash Colleen.
yeah, with all those old ladies, and she was like, I got shit to do, and she did what she had to do. Yeah, and then you gain a Khalasar. She has like all of the Dothraki. Yeah, that was pretty freaking cool. And the last time we saw her character naked, I think, outside of when she's banging.
It's in her
Jon on the boat.
contract. She has a contract. No more naked. Unless I say so.
That's not in Jon Snow's contract. We'll get to that later.
That butt, though.
Yeah.
John has a butt. No doubt about it. John's got an ass
A little
on
bit
him.
of a booty.
Yeah, he does. Saddest moment of this season, anyways, for me. And when we were working together, Stina, I gave her a sign. A Hodor.
Hold the door.
Oh my gosh.
That might be the saddest moment besides the red wedding for me. That was, I cried.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting a little emotional just thinking about it now.
Hodor knew it was coming.
You can tell because every time he says Hodor, supposedly when the actor reads it, it has different sayings for each one, so he knows what Hodor is trying to say.
Oh my
you
gosh.
you can tell whenever, what's her name? Like Mira?
Mira Reed.
When Mira Reed's talking to him, he just is like, Hodor. Like the dude knew. He was he was preparing himself.
What an unbelievable episode that was. You had so much. You obviously had Hodor's death and their escape from the Night King, but you had Bran turning into the Three-Eyed Raven, and they had the whole scene with the Children of the Forest. That was the episode they got wiped out too. Like that was
Right, Summer died as well.
That was sadder for me. Like hearing the yelp after like he jumps into that crowd of
pit.
whites. Yeah. Yeah, I got sadder about the animals than most of the characters. You can pop Oberyn's head every episode. I don't give a shit. Just save the dire wolves.
no comments. No comments. Children of the Forest getting wiped out. I know we didn't see a lot of them in this show. We will, sounds like a lot in the prequel. I don't think we realize how big of a moment that is. I mean, that's the most ancient race on this fictional planet or continent, and that was the end of them in this moment, trying to protect Bran. They know that they know more about Bran than we do at this point. They know he's extremely important, which in our predictions podcast next we'll get to that. But yeah, the end of the Children of the Forest.
Right, trying to protect Bran from their creation that they made, which was a huge shock to me. So I mean, at least we know something about the White Walkers is that they were once man created to be this killing machine.
Potentially even once Starks.
Gotta be, right?
I think so.
Gotta be.
Well, I think the prequel, that is going to take place during that time frame, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I have no idea
I'm
at all.
not sure. But it has to be like Brandon the Builder or something.
Right, they're
like that.
building the
Yeah.
wall. So I guess we'll get lots of children in the forest and that storyline of Starks and everything. So you can keep that shirt you're wearing right now. Yes,
I'm gonna have to. I'm sweating through this thing now, so
it's gonna be over after that.
I'll work out in it. I love it shows off my guns.
We have Euron becoming King of the Iron Islands. Your guys is one of your favorite
Winning the
characters.
King's Moot.
And yeah, sending Theon and Yara on the run.
Oh yeah.
It's,
And into the arms
let's
of
go
Daenerys.
let's kill my nieces and nephews.
That was silly.
But first I gotta give Daenerys this big old cock or whatever he says.
He's always talking about his wiener.
Yeah.
He is, but nobody else talks about it, which usually is a sign of
Right.
something.
Overconfident.
I mean, the name of
Compensating.
his boat's so cool, Silence, because he cut off the tongues of everyone on the boat. Like, the dude's a badass. Let's get real.
True. Bronn's always talking about someone else's wiener.
It is, but I feel like Bronn. He's pretty. I feel like he would have no problem in the sack.
No, I'm sure.
I feel like
fine.
neither of those two people would.
No.
Yeah, Jamie probably had a hard time getting Bronn out of Dorne.
A hard time.
Come on.
The spicy southern women. He was all about.
That was well done. All right, the scene that put me. I was already halfway on Team Cersei, but I was full Team Cersei after this. Was the Walk of Atonement, and what an incredible job by Alina Headey, who's the actress who plays Cersei. Certainly, shame. I forget her. What's her name? The
Septa Mardane.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
ringing the bell. Shame, 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 and just the nastiness of the King's Landing mob, and then her breaking down into Zombie Mountain's arms at the end with Kevin Lannister right next to her. Even if you guys don't like Cersei, did you feel for Cersei in that moment?
I like Cersei.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go. All right. Well, you don't like Cersei then. Did you
No.
feel for her in that moment?
Yeah, of course. I don't see how you can't. Yeah, I definitely felt for her. And she didn't atone though. Like it didn't work. It was just mean. So.
Yeah. And we're recording in New Orleans, so correct me if I'm wrong, but all throughout Mardi Gras, all I saw were naked blow-up dolls with people dressed as Septa saying shame, shame. And like you can tell people who watch Game of Thrones were like, shame, get her, let's get mud and just throw it at the blow-up doll.
What were your thoughts as that scene went through, Stina? Let's be
I
honest.
felt
You're the
so bad for Cersei, but who didn't? Even if you hated her in that moment, you did not want to be her. You understood that they were just any kind of power that she had. It was ripped away. Took off her hair, her Lannister curly locks, degraded her of her clothes, threw mud, pee, and anything else at her. So, I mean, even after that, the Mountain had a really hard time of people saying the Lannister name and not making fun of it or belittling it in any way.
powerful.
Yeah.
On the more powerful episodes of the show. And of course, I think this was the final episode, was Daenerys returns to Meereen and she retakes Meereen, kills the Masters and blows their ships to smithereens, and Grey Worm executes, well, I guess it was Grey Worm who executes two of the Masters. Really cool little battle scene. It was
Yeah, the Dothraki just
not
come
long,
and-
but it was cool.
No, the Dothraki come. They whoop. They in one swoop. Chop, like it was. He uses his Akra and chops off one of the sons of the Harpy's head, but it was indicative of that whole storyline subsiding. But yeah, I was kind of glad to leave Essos behind and get the series kind of tied up or close to it. But I think maybe one of my favorite scenes in the whole show is when you just see the might of Daenerys and everything she has going for her. She's got the part of the Iron Fleet. She's got a horde of Dothraki. She's got the Unsullied. She's got 3 dragons, and she's got some of the most noble houses in Westeros. I don't know how she fucked this up when she came over to Westeros. Like, man. Well, I'm sure we'll get to it too, but there's no way. Like, she shouldn't have just flown into King's Landing, fire and blood. So, but anyway, that scene where she's coming over the Narrow Sea on her way to Westeros is maybe my favorite like just one of my favorite scenes in the whole show.
Yeah, she was coming in hot.
Dude.
And I mean, Tyrion, he was so great at playing the game in Westeros, but somehow the depression and going to Essos, it kind of threw him off his strategical mindset a little bit.
Maybe he was good at leading a fellow Lannister, given the position that they had. Like, when you start the Game of Thrones board game, you're given like a position.
Yeah.
Maybe you can play one, from one vantage point well, but Olenna Tyrell, my homegirl, she had it right. Be a dragon, right? It shouldn't have been that close. Yeah.
No, it shouldn't have been that close. I agree. Going a little bit out of chronological order here, the Atonement Walk, end of season 5, and then this leads, and everything that happens in season 6, of course, leads to the best 9 minutes of the show. I don't know if it's the best episode. Well, maybe it might be the best episode of the show, one of them. But Cersei blowing up the Sept of Baelor. Every time I can hear the music right now. Every time I hear that music, I get goosebumps. What an incredibly well edited, filmed, shot scene by everybody involved in this scene right here was about all the people behind the scenes for me, not necessarily the actors and actresses, but everybody who makes this show possible, the special effects, the directing, the sound, the music. It was like the coup de grace of incredible TV. I think it's one of the best episodes in TV history, to be honest.
Absolutely. If you watch it with a group of people for the first time, you could just hear everyone's light bulbs going off in their head like, oh, wait, she's going to do that. She did it. Oh, yes. It was definitely a power play by Cersei.
She sips on her little goblet of wine with a little smirk on her face as all of her enemies are, gone. I remember Olenna Tyrell was like, when we talked about this earlier, that scene where when Cersei's trying to extend an olive branch to the Tyrell family, and Olenna Tyrell's like, You're surrounded by thousands of enemies. What are you going to do? Like, knock them all out yourself? And then she said it as a rhetorical question, but Cersei was like, well, yeah. So, props to your girl, Cersei. That was freaking incredible.
Incredible. And then the haunting scene with the smoke right in front of him, Tommen just falling out of the window as he'd given up at that point.
Faceplant.
Yeah.
Because his uncle High Sparrow and his wife, he
Wait, he says Uncle High Sparrow? Uncle High Sparrow? Oh man.
Yeah, he lost, and then he was at a loss, and he just took his life. It's sad.
Then
Three
we had
will be their crowns, and 3 will be their shrouds.
Yes, they're not a fourth.
prophecies.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no fourth for Cersei's. No food baby.
No wine, baby.
Yeah, you guys aren't into this, baby. You don't think it's a baby. Wine, baby. Best battle in TV history, no doubt about it. Battle of the Bastards, incredible. And to this point, most expensive battle in TV history. That's going to be eclipsed, of course, this year with the Battle of Winterfell. Kind of Kit Harington's everybody liked Kit. I mean, especially if you watch the show, you like John. But everybody's like, well, he's an okay actor. But this episode, he carried it. I mean, he was incredible and probably should have won an Emmy for it. Incredible episode, Battle of the Bastards. And it ran Ramsay Bolton's end, so it was cool, right?
Yeah, thanks to Sansa.
Yeah.
Sansa won that battle. She's not a bastard, but having the Knights of the Vale sweep through and then, letting Ramsay be eaten by his own dogs. That's pretty badass.
Oh, what a power move.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, Sansa.
That wolf that eats Ramsay's face looks so much like my dog. Boo. It's really upsetting.
You should give her a treat after you watch it. Like, good girl, Boo. Like, I feel like that was
I really
you.
should. Oh, God.
Are you a zigzagger that
with Rickon Stark?
Rickon should have zigzagged? Like, I hear this all the time. I'm like, if I'm in that moment, I'm probably not thinking about zigzagging.
Serpentine running? I don't know. He was like 10 years old, 11 years old?
No matter what, I mean, Ramsay's a really good shot.
Yeah, that was his thing.
So-
He was supposed to be one of the best archers, I think, in Westeros. He had kind of done that. Remember
he was really good.
Wasn't the first scene that we saw him was he was hunting people, but he was hunting with this crazy paramour, whoever that was. Oh, my goodness. What a crazy person she was. And then, of course, King of the North coming out party 4. All these coming out parties. Lyanna Mormont. Little Lyanna.
But she refused the coal.
Yeah, what a badass.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
is.
I'm going to give you all my 50 men and you're going to like it. She's
Yeah,
amazing.
She is amazing.
All right, so we've come to season 7. Biggest. Let's just run through this. Your biggest takeaways from this last season, biggest moments of this last season. There's a lot packed in here. You have Danny and John meeting. They find Dragonglass. They spend like 2 episodes doing this politicking thing, which I thought was dragged out when you only have this one season to do all this stuff. I thought they could have made that one episode. You have Euron capturing Yara and killing all the sand snakes, which I know Mike is very happy about.
The whole fandom was happy.
You had Melisandre getting excised. You had this crazy expedition to the north, which I know we'll talk about in depth here in just a little bit. But biggest points from this last season, things you're going to remember, things you think are most important for all the events upcoming in season 8.
I think we can all agree that it was when Jaime was coming back from Highgarden and Daenerys came in with the Dothraki and her dragon with fire and blood. That was epic.
The scene where they have the white and they show it, and Tyrion has to parlay with his sister, and that's going to be... We still don't know what the agreement was between them, not to step on the toes of predictions, but I think that Tyrion's agreement with Cersei was that her baby gets to sit on the Iron Throne. That scene was pretty important. I know it's the end of season 6, but Bran wargame or time traveling back to see Jon Snow being born. That was a big one.
Oh, of course.
Too.
How do we forget that one? Yeah.
Because that introduces the whole idea of time travel. And Bloodraven says that the past is written in stone. It's like the ink is already dried, but I don't know how true that is. But he's Bloodraven. He was the original. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Bran's impacting the past, right? So
Bran's a weird character. I still can't. Maybe it's just my non-three-eyed raven brain, but I can't wrap my head completely around him anymore.
Fear is
he's
that
not Bran.
My fear is that for this remaining season is that he is going to be so crucial, and it's going to be about time travel and influence, and it's going to be over my own head. I'm not going to understand what's going on because we're not on book anymore. So we'll see.
I am a little bit worried about that. That's the one area where I think they may have opened up a little bit of Pandora's box here is with Bran being everywhere at once, which I think he phrased it that way or very close to it when he's talking to Sansa and Arya right below the weirwood tree outside of Winterfell, that I'm not Bran, I'm everywhere at once. Again, I guess we'll leave that there. I don't really know what they're going to do there with that. That's for prediction episode, by the way, which will come up next. Some of the things there's so much that happened this last season because they probably put like a book and a half or 2 books into one season.
Well,
Beyond the Wall.
The remaining books that are left, the books that he hasn't even written yet, they're cramming all into 13 episodes collectively.
I understand why they're doing it. It's the logistics of running a big-time TV show when you have all these contracts and you have people wanting to do other stuff, and probably some of these actors are like, I'm over it. I've been doing this for 10 years. Let's go here. But some of the stuff that happens, we have Cersei killing. Which sand snake was it?
Alaria saying.
Yeah, no, Alaria's alive.
She's in the. She's in the.
Tyrene
Tyrene maybe.
Yeah,
Do you think that Oberyn's
Tyrene, you're right. Tyene.
Oberyn's lover is still alive in the bottom?
She said she was going to leave her. Cersei said she's going to live a long time because they're going to force feed her.
You think she's coming back?
We didn't see her die.
Right.
Oh, that's true. I thought they were. Wow. There's only 6 episodes left. How are they going to tie all these loose ends up? I think she's gone. We'll see.
She could just be like.
If she's alive, we won't see her.
Do I think she has an important part now?
No, I don't think so either. But Edmure Tully's also still out there, locked up in some dungeon.
We will see him again. He has a part to play.
You think so?
We'll get to it.
Oh yeah, predictions, right? We gotta save the predictions. Just running through some here. It was cool to see the Stark kids reunite. First time since season 1. That was really cool.
And more to come.
I thought it was pretty. I had some issues with the last season, but one thing I thought was well done was how they played off Arya and Sansa, kind of supposedly supposed to be plotting behind each other's backs, but really they were plotting behind Littlefinger's back the whole time.
In a similar vein to the Jon and Daenerys, I thought it dragged on for a little too long.
Same. I saw through it a little bit. I was like, we kind of all know Littlefinger's going to die here. And I think it was funny whenever Sansa was like, well, Arya, great to see you. Our brother is a three-eyed raven or something like that now. Who knows? And now I have a crazy no one is a sister. So this Stark reunion's going great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's there somewhere. Hey, Sam saves Jorah. Awesomely gross scene. Everything Sam does in the Citadel is gross.
It's mostly the chamber pots, more so than the skinning of his grayscale.
How they went from the food right to the chamber pots.
Yes.
That was
And you remember, I just watched this episode again last night. They do him pulling the skin off of Jorah immediately into, I think, a hot pie or somebody opening a bread pie.
Yeah, the cut scenes, that was gross.
So good. Okay, we'll talk about this. Cersei announces she's pregnant to Jaime. And you guys aren't believers.
No.
I guess we'll find out.
Don't forget the ice dragon. It's a big one.
Yep, I'm getting to that. That's one of the last things I was going to go over was their journey beyond the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I am going to defend some internet naysaying about this one. Number one, they said, well, why did the Night King know, and why didn't he just kill everybody, and why didn't he surround? When he had Jon and all those people there, why didn't they just kill him earlier? I think it was his whole plan to capture a dragon. He wanted to lure a dragon there. He had the chains already there. He had the 3 spears, not 1, not 2, but 3.
Yeah.
3 for 3 dragons. And he waited, and that's why they were waiting and not going across the ice. They were waiting for Daenerys to show up, and she showed up, and he knows, here's my chance.
How did they know she was coming, though?
Another thing is if Bran can see all the weirwoods, maybe so can the Night King. And Daenerys was in Dragonstone. There's probably a weirwood or 2 there. So, I mean, he could know there's 3 dragons out there, and he could just be waiting. Okay, she's got to be coming eventually. So I don't know if he can predict the future, but maybe he's aware that the 3 dragons are alive.
Yeah, I think there is some credibility to that theory. However, I still maintain that it was really freaking dumb mission in the first place.
Dumb is in bad storytelling, or dumb is in Jon's dumb?
Both.
I concur.
It was a little bit rushed. I agree with that. But I kind of understand it from Jon's point. I was talking to one of my friends about this last week. He's like, why would Jon go on this? He's king of the North. My whole view on Jon is, and I still believe this, Jon doesn't want to be king of the North. Jon still kind of wants to die this heroic death. And he kind of thought, well, this is my way to do that. Go north, save my people, I'll die the heroic death, and I'm already supposed to be dead, and he's probably still seems a little conflicted about that.
Well, yeah, like when they were trying to pull him up onto the dragon, and then he was like, hold on, let me kill a couple more whites. Give me 1 sec.
Okay, I wasn't sold until you said that.
Right.
Okay, maybe I am.
And then she's like, I remember she's looking at him like, let's go. Yo, let's go. Fuck, we gotta go. And then she left, and then he goes underwater. He somehow survives. How many almost deaths are we going to get with Jon? That's why, for predictions, I don't see him dying. We've already seen him almost die 1,000 times. And
right.
So I don't know.
Well, we did see him die once.
Yeah, and really die.
Hey, Uncle Benjen returned and saved him.
Yeah, cold hands. That was fun.
That was cute. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Cersei's betrayal. And we knew this was coming. I mean, I'm Team Cersei, but we knew she wasn't just going to drop everything and team up with all the people that she believes the prophecy is going to try to kill her eventually. This beautiful queen going to take your crown and cast you down. Of course not. So the final scene, we see Jaime finally saying, I've had enough. I'm out of here. I really thought, and we'll see what Jaime's story arc is in the final season. I thought it would have been the perfect death and perfect cap to that season if Mountain just would have killed him. You had Cersei, looking conflicted but also very triumphant, and it fades to black or something like that. And he needed to die. That was the moment. I mean, I can't see Cersei letting him walk out like that.
He should have drowned in that episode with the gold rush or whatever.
He had all that armor on. It was pretty cheap to bring him back.
Yeah, I thought it was cheap as well. When he drowned, I was like, that. We actually discussed that on this podcast, and I was like, no, he's dead. He's dead.
Well,
he was not.
So I live. I think I said this during the podcast. So I lived in rivers, in really deep rivers. There's a little bit of TV magic going on there, but I will say I've lived on rivers where you go 5 feet out in the river and it's 20 feet deep. So I thought that wasn't that far off base, but him like washing up like half a mile downstream
Right.
in that armor, that was a little weird.
Right.
Come on, Benioff and Weiss. You can do better than that. All right, so that's our recap. I want to get into quick things here. I know we're running long on the podcast, but I want our best death of the entire series so far. These are normal segments we do every week on the podcast. We're going to do best death and then best survival of all the players, and we'll start with little best death.
Now, this week's best death.
There's no doubt I'm going to stand up. We're going to do it. It's my man. It's Oberyn. Terrible death, but come on. Getting your head crushed on a wicked one-on-one battle scene that was so cool and so well choreographed. Terrible death. Had nightmares over it, but also my best death.
I second that.
Okay. I have to say Tywin on the little potty. On the pooper.
Tywin on the pooper. Something like that. Is there like an honorable mention to Dickon just randomly just burning to death because of his pride? Did Dickon die too soon? We were like Team Dickon this last
We
season.
can also say R.I.P. to the dick of, Theon as well, since we're on that route.
That was probably the saddest
that
death
was
in the
pretty
whole.
sad.
Because we got to see it in the first or second season.
Yeah.
Theon's peenie.
Well, it got a lot of action.
It did.
And apparently had a lot of fans.
It has its own Instagram account.
It would have. The penises of Westeros, I guess.
God.
All
Pots of
right.
pain.
And finally, best survival.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Here's this week's best survival.
I'm going to stay true to myself. I did not think Cersei would make it this far. So the way she's somehow, I understand she's not a good person. I get it. Don't at me. I'm not saying I would like her in real life. I love her story arc. I love her character development. But I have no idea how she's made it this far. I definitely thought she was gone last season. So she would be my best survival to this point in the show.
The Hound, Sandor Clegane.
That's a good one.
I thought
Very good
that was
one.
pretty cool. Because we all thought he was a goner. Well, yeah, because even in the books, there was like clues that he might be still alive. But I thought opening that episode where he is kind of reformed in the faith of the Seven, and almost turns a leaf, but then he just starts hunting people down again. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and it was fun that he was still alive.
I would have to say Sansa, even though she was not my favorite. I actually really disliked her in the first, 5 seasons. But last season, I really started to see that it takes a lot of strength to be where she was. Like she told Arya, we wouldn't have survived in either of each other's shoes. So she's been through a lot, and she's still like clawed her way back to the top. So go Sansa for keeping Stark alive.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for our recap podcast.
Woo!
A little round of applause for us. Be sure you add us on our social media. It is at a podcast has on Twitter, at a podcast has, and on Instagram it's at a podcast has no name GOT. A podcast has no name GOT. We'll have a bunch of stuff on there throughout the season, and follow us on our personal social medias if you want. I'm at Seth Dunlap on Twitter.
At Stina Molinario.
I think it's Nema Turtle on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's so funny. That's it. So we'll be back next week. But if you're just finishing this one, you might have watched them in reverse order. But if you haven't watched our Season 8 preview and predictions podcast, it's going to be shorter than this one was. If you thought this one was a little long. But check that out. And then we'll be back next Tuesday morning with our Episode 1 recap. For Stina and Styles, I'm Seth. And by the way, Kat from Bayou 95.7 and Teapot from B97 going to be with us next week. Going to be a full house. We'll have a new studio.
Ooh.
We just got told this right before we're walking in, so we'll have a new studio and a fuller house. So for all of them, see you next week.
Hold the door!
A podcast has no name. Seth 1234 1234.
Hold the door!
Oh no.
I wish I had a good one.
A podcast has no name. Seth 1234 1234.
Hold the door!
Oh no.
I wish I had a good one.
But
I got a 20% discount. You only gave me 15.
And guess what? She's gonna get that discount, the Queen of Thorns.
Ah! Oh! Oh, Todd! Fire! I'm on fire! I'm on fire! Oh, Oh, I'm on fire!